I was standing in the middle of the loudest, most joyful party I'd ever experienced, watching 200 college students lose themselves in pure celebration. And I had the strangest thought: God, I wish church felt like this. The B-52's Love Shack was blasting from every speaker. People were dancing on tables, singing at the top of their lungs. And for the first time in my life, I understood what uninhibited joy actually looked like. But here's the thing that stopped me cold. I realized I was homesick for something I'd never experienced. I was longing for a kind of spiritual community that I wasn't sure existed. Growing up, faith and fun felt like opposites. Church was where you went to be serious, solemn, and judged. Parties were where you went to be free, authentic, and accepted. But standing there, watching this beautiful chaos of human connection, I couldn't help but wonder, what if they didn't have to be opposites? See, I'd grown up in churches that felt more like libraries than celebrations. Whispered prayers, uncomfortable silences, and the constant sense that joy was somehow inappropriate, disrespectful. Like God preferred us subdued and serious rather than authentic and alive. But that night, watching my friends embrace each other, laugh until their sides hurt, and create memories that would last decades, I realized something was fundamentally wrong with that picture. These people, messy, imperfect, beautifully human, they were experiencing something sacred. They just didn't know it. The question haunted me for weeks. What would happen if you took all that energy, all that authentic community, all that pure joy, and created a space where the divine could meet it? Not tame it, not sanitize it, but actually celebrate alongside it. That's when five of us made what everyone thought was the craziest decision of our college careers. We pooled our money, bought a rundown cabin in the North Georgia mountains, and decided to create something that had never existed. A place where worship felt like a party, where prayer felt like conversation, and where anyone, regardless of their spiritual background, could experience the sacred through authentic community. We called it Faith Shack. What we discovered up there changed everything I thought I knew about faith, community, and what it means to be authentically human. We found that when you strip away the performance and the judgment, when you create space for people to be messy and real and imperfect, something beautiful happens. The sacred doesn't compete with joy, it amplifies it. People started showing up, not just Christians, but seekers, skeptics, people who'd been hurt by religion, people who'd never set foot in a church. They came because they sensed what we'd stumbled onto, that the deepest spiritual experiences often happen not in silence, but in celebration, not in isolation, but in authentic community. How many of us have felt torn between who we are in sacred spaces and who we are everywhere else? How many of us have wondered if we have to choose between being spiritual and being authentically ourselves? What we learned is that the most profound encounters with the divine often happen when we stop trying to be someone else and start celebrating who we actually are. This song became my way of responding to the B-52's, of saying, yes, we love your vision of uninhibited joy and community, and here's what happens when that same energy meets faith. It's a song that maintains all the infectious, danceable energy of the original while exploring what worship looks like when it refuses to be boring. What you're about to hear is the sound of spiritual rebellion, not against God, but against the idea that God prefers us quiet, subdued, and separate from our joy. It's the sound of faith getting funky, of worship becoming celebration, and of discovering that sometimes the most sacred thing you can do is dance like nobody's watching. Listen for the moment when Love Shack becomes Faith Shack, and see if you can hear what we heard up in those Georgia mountains, that the sacred and the celebratory aren't opposites at all. They're dance partners.
If you see a wooden cross by the mountain road, says 5 miles to the Faith Shack, yeah. I'm heading up the Georgia highway, looking for the soul getaway. headed for the soul getaway. Got me a van painted with verses, and we're heading on up to the Faith Shack. Got me a Chevy, it seats about 20, so hurry up and bring your worship money. The Faith Shack is a little old place where we can praise together. Faith Shack, baby. Faith Shack, baby. Faith Shack, baby. Faith Shack. Faith Shack. Faith Shack, baby. Faith Shack. Sign says, welcome all you sinners, cause grace wins at the Faith Shack. Well, it's set way back in the middle of the pines, just a funky old cabin, and we're having a good time. Prayers on the back porch, healing in the kitchen, joy spilling out the windows, Holy Ghost in the hallway. Faith Shack is a little old place where we can praise together. Faith Shack, baby. Faith Shack, that's where it's at. Faith Shack, that's where it's at. Faith Shack, that's where it's at. Singing, believing, praying and receiving, walking closer to the light. It's as bright as the sun. The whole place glowing, yeah, the whole place glowing. The whole place glowing when the Spirit's moving around and around and around and around. Everybody's singing, everybody's growing, baby. Clap, clap, clap. Folks driving up the mountain just to get blessed. Clap, clap, clap. Everybody's singing, everybody's growing, baby. Holy little cabin, holy little cabin. Hop in my Chevy, it's painted with verses, and it's about to spread the word. I got me a van, it seats about 20, so come on and bring your offering money. The Faith Shack is a little old place where we can praise together. Faith Shack, baby. Faith Shack, baby. Faith Shack. Faith Shack. Faith Shack. Faith Shack. Faith Shack. Faith Shack. Faith Shack, baby. Faith Shack, baby. Knock, knock, knock on heaven's door, baby. Knock a little louder, baby. Knock, knock, knock on heaven's door, baby. I can't hear you. Knock, knock, knock on heaven's door, baby. Knock a little louder. Knock, knock, knock on heaven's door, baby. I can't hear you. You what? Souls on fire. Faith Shack. Faith Shack, baby. Faith Shack. Faith Shack. Faith Shack, baby. Faith Shack. Y'all, this ain't your grandmother's Sunday service. This is where faith gets funky.
Here's what I learned from that crazy experiment. Faith isn't about choosing between joy and reverence, between authenticity and spirituality, between celebration and worship. The most transformative spiritual experiences happen when we stop making those false choices and start embracing the beautiful complexity of being fully human in relationship with the divine. Whether you find the sacred in a mountain cabin, a traditional sanctuary, or a crowded party where the B-52's are playing too loud, the invitation is the same: to stop performing and start celebrating, to stop hiding and start dancing, to discover that sometimes the most profound prayer you can offer is simply being authentically, joyfully, completely yourself. That's what Faith Shack is really about. The radical idea that God might actually prefer us real rather than perfect, celebrating rather than subdued, dancing rather than sitting still. And maybe, just maybe, that's where the most beautiful spiritual communities are born, not in spite of our joy, but because of it. So here's my question for you. Where's your Faith Shack? Where do you go when you need to remember that being spiritual and being authentically yourself aren't mutually exclusive? Drop a comment and let me know. I read every single one, and honestly, your stories inspire more songs than you probably realize. If this resonated with you, hit that subscribe button because we're building something here. A community of people who refuse to choose between sacred and celebratory, between faith and fun, between worship and authenticity. And hey, if you're feeling generous, there's a tip jar in the description. Every dollar goes straight back into creating more music that challenges the false choice between being spiritual and being real. Oh, and before I forget, yes, that North Georgia cabin is still there, and yes, it's still funky as ever. The tin roof is still rusted, but our souls, they're blazing higher than ever. Thanks for listening. Thanks for being part of this community. And remember, sometimes the most sacred thing you can do is dance like nobody's watching, except God, who's probably tapping his foot right along with you. Peace, love, and funky faith, y'all. Peace.